Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux taking a look at race number 5 at Horseshoe Indianapolis on Saturday. Let's throw up the field for the Caesars Stakes. These are 3-year-olds going a mile on the turf. First leg of a 50-cent pick 4. Twirling Point, the 9-5 morning line favorite. Jonathan Thomas, Florent Giroux. This one's won 2 of his last 3 starts, including the Jersey Derby last time out. And maybe his best asset is his tactical speed. He can lead, he can rate.
Yeah, this is an interesting bunch. I felt like you can kind of split this field in half with 4 contenders really for the top spot and the other 4 maybe competing for the minors at best. But Sketch is a big name here. Aspenite, Twirling Point, as you mentioned, and even a horse like Beyond Stoked, who's a little intriguing with that most recent win at Horseshoe Indy. So those were kind of the main 4 that I was alluding to.
Curious to see how this pace plays out. Lucky Jeremy is going to be trying turf for the first time, and he has shown speed on both synthetic and dirt. And adding blinkers, you have to feel he's going to be forwardly placed. But I do wonder if the number 2 Sketch can be closer to the pace. After all, he is stretching out for the first time and has shown tactical speed in sprint races.
Yeah, I usually agree with the time form pace projections. I don't agree with this necessarily because of Sketch and where Sketch is positioned here. Just knowing that those last couple of efforts have been between 5.5 and 6 in the last 2. He's been a lot closer. I think he can muddle things. I do think a horse like Azteca's Gold on the inside, the hand is slightly forced, especially for the type of horse that sort of likes to chase the pace. So we'll see what happens. I don't know how quick it'll be early on in this mile event. I think Lucky Jeremy is going to sort of maybe try to dictate things from that perspective.
And while our morning line favorite Twirling Point has the fastest time form U.S. late pace rating, I'll be kind of surprised if he's rallying from last. He has shown the tactical speed to be a lot closer to the pace. Azteca's Gold is also cross-entered at Colonial Downs on Saturday, but this one's coming off of a victory in her turf route debut last time out right here at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Got a very nice trip, Azteca's Gold, that day, saving ground, coming through along the inside. Looks to be a progressive sort, but has taken a big jump up in class.
Yeah, it's the jump up in class, I think, is the concern, especially against this bunch. You look at the maiden score, and I think a big thing was finally stretching out around 2 turns, where we see horses that sometimes chase this pace in sprint races, and then they tire because they go too quick early on, where in terms of the pace, it was a little bit slower than some of those dirt sprints that he had participated in, and then he had enough left to kind of sustain his bid and get the job done. But facing winners for the first time is tough enough, especially against this field, which some horses have accomplishments on their resume.
Sketch has raced 3 times since being imported into the United States and has steadily improved with each and every outing, including a good runner-up effort last time out. It was a slow-paced race, controlled throughout by the gate-to-wire favorite, a horse that did come back to earn an 88 buyer, winning an off-the-turf stake at Ellis Park. The distance is really the question mark for Sketch, who's got a European pedigree and should get close to the pace. I think he fits on his best day.
I think so. And you talked about the winner last time out. The 3rd place finisher just came back to win at Colonial on Thursday with an 86 buyer speed figure in an allowance race. I think that kind of adds to this one's most recent showing. And in terms of the tactics, we talked about it with the time form pace projections. I think this horse is going to be somewhat forward. Now he is going to have to stretch out around 2 turns for the first time, which is probably his biggest obstacle. But in terms of turf figures alone, he's some of the best in the field.
After a disappointing performance in the Lexington Stakes, one of the final Kentucky Derby preps, Lucky Jeremy went through the auction ring and he was purchased for a pretty good sum, $210,000. His first start for the New Connections came in the Texas Derby, showed speed, tired badly again. Now they're going to try turf. Don't necessarily love the looking at Lucky's on the grass, but if you go deep in this female family, there is a lot of turf, and it is Michael Maker, who's made a lot of money over the years switching surfaces.
Yeah, you mentioned the big purchase price. Resolute Racing is here to play the game. They've been spending a lot of money on a variety of horses, whether it's racing prospects, broodmares, you name it. And he's going to get blinkers on, which he's never raced with blinkers on at all in his career. And I guess I don't know what to do with him. You look at some of the races he's been in, and obviously they've been tough spots, tougher than he's going to face in this spot. But the turf is a big question. And I just feel like his last 2, in my opinion, they've just been poor. He needs to show more. And if he would have shown a little bit more last time out in the Texas Derby, maybe I'd feel differently about him in this spot. But too many question marks around him.
Aspenite, the number 4, won a $500,000 stakes race as a maiden going a mile on turf. And then the great Steve Asmussen, after one off-turf start, decided he was a sprinter, ran him several times sprinting. Well, they got him back to a mile last time in the Penn Mile. He ran great again. Maybe he's a miler after all. Here's Aspenite getting the run of the race down towards the inside. The pace was fast, saved every inch of ground, and he's just going to get nosed out by a good horse. First World War would come back to run second in the American Derby with an 88 Beyer speed figure. This horse is live in this spot.
Absolutely, and this is a big performance from him just to get nosed out like he did, and you mentioned stretching out in distance. They had him going long, they shortened him up, and maybe he's versatile. Maybe he can do that. We've seen that some with nice turf horses over the year that they can be effective at both distances depending on the flow of the race. But, for him, coming out of the sprints, at least we saw last time out, he was tactical, he was forwardly placed, he wasn't so far off of it, and the pace, at least in that race specifically, was quick enough to the half that he was able to sort of, kind of pass some horses late and just got denied. So if you're looking at his most recent race, you obviously have to like what you've seen.
The well-bred number 5 Twirling Point has won his last 2 starts on turf, including this race, the Jersey Derby, last time out. And again, he just showed good tactical speed as the favorite, pounced on the leaders, turning for home, and got it done just by a nose under Frankie Dettori. The runner-up flattered this form somewhat when returning to finish third in the Grade 3 Manila in New York with an 80 Beyer speed figure. This guy's got some guts for Jonathan Thomas. He'll be running at the end.
And I remember being on site at Woodbine watching him break his maiden and thinking like, oh, Javier just outrode everybody. That was a great ride from Javier. And now to see this horse actually kind of back-to-back efforts, just consistently fire, tells you that wasn't the case. This horse is just better, especially better than what he faced up there at Woodbine. But since then, he's really tried in all of his starts. We saw in the pace projections him being last. I agree with you. I don't think there's any way he's last, but if he's mid-pack, that's fine. If he's sitting second, that's fine. He's just so versatile in his running style that I think he is the deserving morning line favorite in this race.
Like Lucky Jeremy, the 6 Patch O'Brien will be making his turf debut. He came off of a little bit of a tough trip last time out on dirt at Churchill Downs. He ran on synthetic 3-back. That seems to be his surface right now. He beat a couple of next out dirt winners in that race when sitting off of a very fast pace and getting the right setup. Not sure about the turf for this guy. He is out of a Giants Causeway mare. I'm more concerned, though, about stepping up out of the claiming ranks.
That will be tough. Last time was in for 50,000 and he wasn't effective. He was more effective in that non-winners of 2 life in the prior effort. So it's tough for me to make a case for him in here when there is just others with good recent turf for him. And we mentioned it is an unknown. When you look at his races at Turfway Park, a little inconsistent. His better efforts were where he was sort of chasing the pace, and then the poor effort in between. I don't know if he really had any excuses. I mean, he took a fair bit of play in that race at 5-1. So for me in a race like this, I can't endorse him.
Here's a potential sleeper, the number 7 Beyond Stoked, a horse that sold for $450,000 as a 2-year-old in training. He's by multiple champion sire Into Mischief, and he was just underperforming. So they gelded him, brought him back at Horseshoe Indianapolis, found the right spot, and here's what Beyond Stoked did in that first level allowance race. Got up close to moderate fractions. He's a big, good-looking son of Into Mischief, and he strides on home. I wonder if maybe he's just beginning to turn the corner.
He might be. I mean, the time off, I think, probably suited him well. You can see in his last 2, he had sort of flattened in his final stages, and he wins like this, and he wins quite easily, where no one's really making that much of a threat late. Obviously, the threat was between the second and third place finishers, and he does have the 2 wins going at longer distances, 7.5 and a mile. And his trips have been very similar in both of those races. So we'll see what ends up happening. And it's worth noting that in those races, though, when you compare the times, different tracks, though, as well, they were a little bit quicker, where when the pace has been a little bit slower and he's been sort of, 2, 3 behind the leader, he hasn't been able to kind of show that late kick, but maybe he has turned the corner and can change things around.
And completing the field is the 8 Conspiractherapist, a horse that pulled off one of the shockers of the year. 74-1 in his career debut at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Sure didn't run like it, didn't break well, showed agility to get into the race, and kept on rolling along. Okay, it's a big step up in class, but he could be any kind, and he's going to be a price yet again.
Yeah, you have no idea, right? So if you're going to use him, he could be a big price in here, and you can't be shocked with his performance either way off of that. He could run well, he could run poor, could be a combination of things. Also, again, we always talk about doing too much too soon. Maybe it's too tough of a field, but to win on debut at a big price like that, no one really looked at him that day, and maybe he'll offer value once again.
Fun race, the Caesars Handicap, race number 5 at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Let's take a look at our top picks on Saturday. You're going with Aspenite. He's just such a hard hitter. He's tactical. I can see him working out a trip in the second flight or so.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see him also route 2 races in a row. We've seen him on the sprinting side of things, and just to see him turn a corner and take a step forward, I am intrigued by him. I think that race overall was a decent enough quality that sort of maps to this. If not, maybe this is a tad weaker.
Let's be honest, Lucky Jeremy needs a wake-up call after two really dismal performances on dirt. But I've seen this before from Maker, where he switches surfaces and these horses do wake up. The blinkers on should have him on or near the lead, but I need double-digit odds before I plop some money down. 3-2-4-5 for me, 4-5-2-8 for Ashley. Remember, kicks off a 50-cent pick four. The Caesars handicap rates 5, Horseshoe Indy on Saturday. Good luck.